One of the things that growing food does is make one or a family a producer rather than just a consumer. So food justice isn't just giving people food, it's offering the skills and knowledge to become a producer. There's something that's very powerful about that if you have just a little bit of ground or even a pot on a ledge, you can actually grow food. It's skills that you'll never forget, and it's one of the only kinds of exercise that you can get that actually grows healthy calories for you.
That's what I think about. How can we come together but still allow each other to grow? How can we make sure everyone has food?
Part of the work that I see the farm doing is offering nourishing, healthy, really beautiful food to people who have less access to it. And I think that's another part of the justice work that we're doing here, and not only offering it, but letting people be a part of growing that food for themselves. So I think at Reality and at the farm, justice looks also like empowerment.
I think for me, what food justice would look like is everybody, they're not hungry. So I think that all, just in the most basic sense, dignified labor or a social safety net that affords that for every person.
Our issue is food insecurity, but food insecurity quickly leads to these other conversations that are part and parcel of what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. My native habitat. I'm Sherilyn Berry, and I am an extension agent here in Durham County Cooperative Extension, and we're at Briggs Avenue Community Garden. I'm the steward of this land, this agricultural education space, where we have a community garden, we're putting in a community orchard, and we also have a community apiary. But it is 45 acres, and so over the next 20 years we want to turn this into a food forest, slowly but surely. So the demographics of Briggs Community Garden is Durham. It's really I don't have the percentages now because I don't collect demographics on the volunteers that just come to us. Our actual plot owners, which is about 45 families, look just like Durham. There's no real dominance of one race or ethnicity over another. The groups that come to us, it's all ages, everywhere from 3-year-olds to 103-year-olds, all walks of life. We will accept anybody here to come and play in the dirt. So it is very much Durham. This is a melting pot of a place, and we get a little bit of everyone here, and it's great. It's one of the things that makes this place so special.
Thanks everybody, welcome to Farm Church, November 7th, 2021, kind of hard to believe, but welcome, glad everybody could join us this morning.
Farm church community is the folks who gather, it's the folks who receive, it's network friendships with other churches and nonprofits in town. We as Farm Church want to be the smartest church in the state of North Carolina when it comes to the issue of food insecurity. You can't be if you're not also well versed in understanding the history of racism in North Carolina, the history of land grabs, all the things that are problematic about inequalities in our society. You have to know those things. So Farm Church, a church that meets on a farm and leverages all of the resources of that farm to address food insecurity. And we chose Durham because of access to open land, serious food insecurity issues within the city and beyond. So here we are, and we moved here in 2015.
All right, let's see. Andrew.
I will do weeding.
Good luck with that.
I love it. It's gonna be great.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
How about you, Caleb?
Well, since I'm very close to summer, I'll be weeding.
Nice. Ready.
Aren't you that good at a house? They want to live here, you come and live here. Yeah.
Why you not being here?
The Reality Farm is a kind of piece of the greater story of Reality Ministries. So Reality Ministries is a nonprofit in Durham. We essentially exist to be a community for people with and without disabilities to grow in friendship together. And that looks a lot of different ways. And here it happens to look like growing food together. And we think that's a really important part, actually, of growing community, because so much of our common life together happens around the table, or at least before COVID it did. And yeah, there's something just really special and kind of community building about everybody having a place at the table. And I think it's really important for that time to be not just like an emotionally enriching one, but also like a nourishing one to our bodies. So the farm provides the food, a lot of the food that we eat together. And it also provides a good amount of the produce that we use for the Reality Cafe, so that when we're serving guests from our wider community, we're also giving them just kind of the best food possible.
Being a steward of the land, I don't own this land, but I have ownership of it in sort of my heart, that I work tirelessly with this group of dedicated volunteers so that we can create a space where people can come. Even when I'm an old lady, I can come to this place because I live 3 minutes away and walk around and enjoy it, because it'll be like an edible public park. Hopefully it'll be on its way to that when I retire.
Relationship to the land is something that we talk a lot about at the Reality Farm. We talk about what it looks like to care well for the land as a part of relationship, like essentially responsibility toward it, what it looks like to pay attention, how we can steward the land well in the sense of, making sure that it is not just like productive, but also nourished itself. And we've got some, specific practices that we do in order to tend the land well. But I think we also talk a lot about what it means to be receiving from the land, not just like giving to it, but also receiving from it, in that sense of we talk a lot about mutuality at Reality, and I think relationship to the land is really similar, where we are offering something and receiving something. And it's cyclical in nature, and it's a give and take. I've got a friend, Tony, who comes out on Tuesdays, and he talks to everything that exists out here. He's talking to the chickens, he's talking to the weeds, he's talking to the sweet potato slips, like everything that we plant or grow or tend, he's speaking to. And yeah, I think I maybe see that as like, what does it look like to do relationship with the land at Reality?
The community part. Sherilyn told me it was 80% community, 20% gardening. And I feel like that's what life is supposed to be. I think it's just acceptance. It should really just be as simple as, I see you. If you have something to say, I'll fight for your right to say it. Community is the soil that allows for the growth of everybody participating in it.
This whole ground beneath us is thriving with life and interdependent relationships, and it's not something that we dig into and put plans into. Like when we put seeds in the ground, we're acknowledging a community that exists beneath our feet that is thriving with life.
A big part of the way that we establish and grow our community is by working together. The mission of Reality Ministries is to essentially grow friendship between people with and without disabilities in a way that facilitates mutuality. Mutuality is a big word at Reality. Our goal really is that everybody feels a sense of belonging and kinship with one another, as opposed to the dynamic that so often helps within the disability community of having the helper and the helped. We really try to blur the lines of that binary and give everybody a sense that they not only belong to the community, but have something meaningful to contribute to it, so that every person is seen as a gift.
After being here for about 5 years, I can actually definitely say it is my second home. I love it so much. It's peace at mind. It helps me learn more techniques, new skills, new friends. Like, what? And I get to see so many different, like, wonderful things growing that we can both use and give to others. Because that's what the farm is. It's to help others out there, and it's to unite people in a common way. It's like a family. They always have your back. They love you. They want to help whenever they can, and they try to understand. Everybody here does it for the community, and yeah, and we are basically working as one being.
For me, faith is the linchpin, kind of connecting all the worlds of like food and justice and disability and land, and faith is the central spoke, the central thing, and everything else is the spoke, I guess. And that for me revolves around Eucharist. The idea being, I guess, that, when Jesus said, "This is my body," and this is my blood, and we, as people of faith, are meant to take that and receive nourishment from it and live by it, that then our table, our common table, our meal table, is an extension of that in a way. Receiving life and living life.
If our faith isn't lived, our faith doesn't take on actions, then it's really just a set of principles, or worse than that, just dogma that we learn and say to each other. That's not very useful to anybody, probably including the folks that are participating in that kind of a faith. So a faith that lives out in the world, in community, trying to make life a little bit better, both for ourselves and for others, I feel like is a faith that's worth living. It's not just words in a book or things that we learn and say to each other.
Community at Farm Church looks like a bunch of people who feel like this conversation about connecting with God and with neighbor and with self and with land and with food all feels like one sacred conversation.
It's the teachings that God told us, to love thy neighbor and being a good Samaritan. Basically meaning you see somebody out there who's not as fortunate to get produce and stuff. We're all connected through a very common goal, which is giving back to the world, giving back to the earth, giving back to the community, and that's the spirituality there.
I think about when Henry David Thoreau went to Walden, and he talked about how easy it was to just live off the land. It did make me aware of how actionable and how in your hands your life can be if you're gardening.
The act of gardening, the act of putting our hands in the soil, is healing in of itself. People should eat. And we would say, people should eat well. You can pretend that you're all alone, but you're not. Your actions, what you do with your body, your words, and your money, it affects a whole ecosystem of creatures and beings and places.
So I just want to know, is this possible? And I don't think I could have those questions answered unless I gave it a shot myself. The power is within our hands to just say, hey, this is the vision for the future. Maybe we can move toward it together.